I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good day, Sadie Witkowski. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful day?
I am quite enjoying today.
It's a great pleasure to connect with you, Sadie. What part of the world are you in right now?
I am in Chicago, Illinois, in basically the center of the United States.
Oh, sweet. Oh, sounds like fun. And which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at this time?
Well, I host my own podcast called Ph.Drinking.
Yeah, Ph.Drinking. Ooh, sounds interesting. Tell us about that, please.
Yeah, so I started this as a project as a way to interview graduate students who are doing really cool research in all kinds of different fields, and try to get people to understand what it means to be in academia, like what are grad students doing with their lives when they spend 5 years getting a PhD. So I talked to chemists, engineers, biologists. I've had philosophy PhDs on, literature. So I'm just trying to kind of get exposure for these students who are doing really cool work.
Oh, so it's a play on words then, the Ph.Drinking. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So D stands for drinking. Like, where did you come up with that from?
I kind of was just throwing around a bunch of different ideas, and I've definitely had friends in the PhD program who call themselves PH drunk when they've had a night out for too long. So right. It just kind of came from that.
All right, cool. So is it that most PhD students drink a lot? I'm joking. I'm just having fun. Oh, cool. So you've been doing this. Where can we reach the podcast and find out more about what you do there?
Yeah, the podcast is on SoundCloud, just Ph.Drinking. I have a Twitter account by the same name. And you can basically get the show on any way that you play podcasts already. So whether that be iTunes or Google Play.
Oh, sweet. So, all right, you're doing the podcast. What have you learned thus far that is like the biggest takeaway?
Biggest takeaway for me is that it is really hard to be a good interviewer and know how to ask questions so people will break down very complex topics in a way that's understandable. So you want to ask questions that don't seem too childish, but are also not too complex so people listening don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's definitely a niche. I'm thinking while I'm talking and just wondering, like, is it possible to target everyone with that conversation? Because it's PhD students, right? Their level is pretty high up there, isn't it, in the educational hierarchy?
It is, although it kind of depends on what topic we're talking about and how much that student has spent time thinking about ways to talk to the public about their research. So there are episodes where, like, I met a girl who studies honeybees and what honeybees eat and how that affects their population. And for a lot of that kind of stuff, it's very intuitive and it's very engaging and interesting on a pretty basic level. So I think that you don't have to have a PhD to listen to the show. There are lots of topics that don't need to be super detailed in explanations.
Love it. And that definitely is your job, right? To make sure it's understandable to everyone. Well, that's great. Wow, what a great idea. So who did you learn the skill of breaking complex things down to simpler forms?
I probably learned it in a lot of places. I've taken several classes on science communication in general, but as a kid, my parents were very invested in teaching me about the things that they did. So my mom's a nurse and my dad is an engineer. And so they were always coming home and talking about problems they'd had to solve and drawing diagrams and explaining to me how this worked. And they were really good at breaking down these really, complex, interesting problems. And it just got me excited for those kinds of conversations.
Yeah, sounds like fun. Why will you continue?
Why will I continue, or how long?
Well, I guess that's the answer, right? Like, you could answer that and say, why will I continue? It's a matter of how long will I continue, because I'm not stopping.
Yeah. I don't ever want to stop, but it is a side project, and I do actually have a real job as a student, and so I can't let it take over my life, but I don't want to ever stop.
Sweet. Well, tell me one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years, please.
Over the last 3 years, and actually probably over the last more than 3 years, I have journaled almost every single night. in
How
a
does
diary.
that make you feel?
It just helps me get out everything that I've been thinking about that day and not feel like I'm holding on to emotions, whether that be, regret or anger. I can write them all out, and then I can feel like I approach the next day with a clean slate.
What's your favorite type of diary? Are you using lines or do you use clean pages?
I do use lines because it helps me organize my space a little better.
Yeah. And one journal carries you throughout the entire year?
Yeah, just about. It's usually a journal for a year plus a month if I buy the big ones.
Okay. All right. Sounds like fun. Wow. Every night. Wow. What consistency. Why would you suggest someone do that? Take the time to journal every night.
I think it helps you put your life in perspective and kind of understand the core story of your life and the things that you've gone through. And it's really fun to go back years later and read about how you were feeling and thinking, 5 years ago or a year ago on the same day.
Amazing audience. We are live with Sadie Witkowski. You could definitely check her out. She is the podcast host of PhDrinking. Sadie, let's switch gears for a moment now and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Sadie, what is your earliest childhood memory?
My earliest childhood memory would be when I was in kindergarten and I was sharing a Halloween treat with my now best friend.
How old do you think you were?
I was probably 4, 5, maybe younger. Maybe I don't know. What years are you in kindergarten? I was very young.
It's 5 or 6, yeah.
Yeah.
So why do you think this is so clear? This memory is so clear?
Because it was one of the first times I had ever interacted with this girl at this new kindergarten. And we became best friends throughout kindergarten and have stayed friends for the last, 20 years, basically.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind?
Sure.
I love the idea of what can occur when you share. Definitely opens a lot. Even when you share a drink, right? And it's PhDrinking, of course, right? But it's just amazing what can occur when you do share. It definitely opens up an entire universe, if you would. Would you agree with that?
I would completely agree.
And have you seen that been like the super activator in your life, sharing?
Yeah. I would say so.
Are you sure? Or are you just saying it because you're on the podcast?
I know. Well, I'm trying to think about I think that sharing is what makes the human race run in a lot of ways. We have to be cooperative. And so I think that when we talk about sharing a drink or sharing, even sharing watching our favorite TV show or something, that is a really important connection between people.
Yeah, even sharing a conversation now that you're on the podcast, right?
Mm-hmm, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. If we fast forward to when you were 12, what was your favorite song?
When I was 12, it was probably like a Jimmy Buffett song because it was one of the first CDs I owned because my dad was really into Jimmy Buffett. And so it was probably like Margaritaville or One Particular Harbor or something, kind of hokey, but really fun.
That's cool. All right. Well, Sadie, we have arrived at our destination. But before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Sadie, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
I have.
Are you married?
No.
Do you have children?
A dog.
Do you believe in God?
I don't.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
Yes.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
No.
How about 3 hours a week?
Yeah, probably 3 hours a week.
What about screen time? The phone and or the computer, is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
Are we including work?
Yes.
Then definitely more than 8.
How much do you think it is, average?
It's probably 10 hours a day in front of a screen.
All right. Sadie, after 1,001 conversations in 3 months in 2016, I came up with a workbook, the name of it being called Yours. It stands for Your Own Unique Real Self. And the idea is you answer questions similar to these, journal type questions, I guess, right? And hopefully you uncover your own unique real statement, your mission. If you, Sadie, had to share with us your own unique real statement, a statement that represents Sadie Witkowski, what would you say that is?
I would say my statement is, I'm not afraid to be nerdy and passionate about things that people might think are weird, and everybody should be the same and be open about things that get them excited and go for it.
Love it. Sadie, this has been a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
I just want to say this has been a fascinating experience and really fun, and I'm really excited to be a part of this project.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure to have you. Sadie Witkowski, thank you for being on what is inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.